This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, welcome to PA Museum Special Achievement Awards webinar. Joining me today, we have Melinda Meyer, who is on the PA Museum's board and chairs our awards subcommittee. We may also have a few, I see Leslie Sibilik's here. She's on our awards subcommittee with Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh. On that committee, we also have Susan Ellis, Crisula Perziola, and Pam Kwatchak. There will be Q&A at the end of our program today, but we'll be monitoring the chat too. So if you'd like to put questions there, feel free to do so. We very recently opened our awards nominations program. The deadline to submit is October 17th. And we get pretty excited about this program every year. I get excited every time I walk into a museum and I see one of our awards on the wall or on the front desk. And today we're hoping to take some mystery out of how the nominations work and what benefits you may receive from participating in our awards program. And we've been doing this for about 40 years now. Melinda?
Yeah, so the purpose of the awards program is really to celebrate all of the really great projects and programs that are happening all across the Commonwealth with museums, historical societies, historic sites, and other like organizations. So we welcome nominations from all types of organizations for exemplary projects, programs, and implementation of best practices in the field. And I think sometimes that final category is often overlooked. We always see plenty of nominations for projects and programs, but we also want to see, again, really excellent examples of how best practices in the field are being implemented in unique and interesting ways. So each year, we make improvements to the program to keep the nomination process user-friendly. And we'll be talking about a few of those changes today, specifically changes that have been made to the online nomination forms. So we often hear the question, can we nominate ourselves? And the answer to that is absolutely. We know that museums have really, again, many museums have stellar projects and programs. And if you're going to wait for someone in the community to nominate your project or program for an award, it just might not happen. So yes, please step up and nominate yourselves. Self-nominations are welcomed. You may also nominate others in the field. So if you have partner organizations or peers that you think have been doing great work and they may be hesitant to nominate themselves or may choose, may not recognize that they're doing great work, right? Some of us just don't recognize what great work we're doing. So if you would like to nominate someone else, another institution or peer, you can do that as well.
The eligibility requirements for our awards are at our website, and that is pamuseums.org/awards. And to quickly go over what those are, nominees must be a member of PA Museums. Anyone can submit a nomination, including staff of nominated organizations. Nominations for joint projects are allowed if all of the major partners are PA Museums members. PA Museums business members and individual members who are consultants are also eligible for awards when the project has benefited a PA Museums institutional member and is jointly submitted with that member. Groups of volunteers are not eligible for individual achievement awards.
So there are several categories of awards, Institutional awards of merit are awarded in recognition of exemplary projects or uses of best practices in the museum field. Examples of projects include, but are not limited to, exhibits and related interpretive programming that present an event or topic or tells a story in an innovative and compelling fashion. A successful cultural tourism program with marketing and media components that resulted in community development and collaboration. A publication or a school program that reaches and engages a previously underserved audience. A model earned income program that has strengthened fiscal independence for the organization, or a website providing greater public access to your programs and collections. Now, the other kind of broader category, again, are examples of how best practices have been implemented. So some examples or uses of best practices that could be nominated include exemplary implementation of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice policies and practices, a creative outreach initiative to broaden audiences, either in person or online, an exemplary or new housekeeping routine, a state-of-the-art volunteer or docent training program, or an innovative collections, conservation, or interpretive plan. Individual awards of merit recognize the lifetime achievements of career professionals and volunteers in the areas of leadership, scholarship, and lifetime contributions to the field. This award may only be given to an individual once in their lifetime. And by stating that, we're hoping that people understand that typically this award is not necessarily intended for someone who is an emerging professional in the field. Typically, the individual award of merit is for someone who has built a record of success over their lifetime. The Carol Wickizer Award is used to acknowledge emerging professionals. This award recognizes exceptional promise and potential for leadership in an emerging professional with 10 years or less experience in the field. And on occasion, PA Museums has also presented special awards. They include the Directors Awards, Institutional Advancement Awards, President's Awards, and these special awards have been presented to projects and individuals really at the discretion of the awards committee or in very select cases, the board of directors for PA Museums.
So how do we decide who receives a Special Achievement Award from PA Museums? The awards subcommittee meets to review nominations, and we evaluate those on their own merit, not one against the other. Committee members are using scoring criteria that are listed in the guidelines to evaluate each nomination. The criteria we use, we actually adopted from something that was used at the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts for their peer grant review process. And we've adjusted these guidelines to align more with our awards program over time. Institutional awards have criteria for the quality of the project, the process or service, 0 to 40 points, audience access and public engagement, 0 to 40 points, and management, 0 to 20 points. Individual awards likewise have criteria for the quality of leadership, professional practice, and contributions to the field, 0 to 40 points, the impact of that individual's efforts, 0 to 40 points, and the clearness or completeness of the nomination, 0 to 20 points. A list of past awardees is available at the website, pamuseums.org/awards. If you scroll past the guidelines at the top, there's a list by year of who has received our Special Achievement Awards.
So starting last year, nominations must be submitted online using the online nomination form. You can access the link to the online form as well as a downloadable copy of the award program guidelines through the PA Museum's website. You can find this information if you go to PA Museums, look at the top tab for programs and services. That will take you to a page which will lead you to a menu on the left-hand side where you'll find awards listed. We recommend assembling all required information for the nomination before you begin the online form, because the form does not allow you to save your work and then return to it at a later date. So you really want to make sure that you have your narrative written, your required attachments at hand, so that you can complete the online nomination form in one sitting. And it is a simple form. The required narrative for institutional nominations has two different sections, one for the project description and one for the project impact. In no more than 1,500 words, describe your nominated project with the understanding that the review committee may not be familiar with your project or program. They may also not be familiar with your overall organization. So the description should include an overview of your planning efforts, as well as the implementation activities for the related project. For the project impact section, describe how you evaluated the success or impact of the project. In previous years, we've asked for this information to be included in the project description, but so many of our nominees skip over this important information and provide very little information about how the success of the program or project was evaluated. So tell us, did you collect visitor surveys? Did you monitor feedback from visitors provided via social media? Did you interview visitors? Did you document media coverage? What has been the greatest impact or result of this project, either on your organization or on the community that you serve? So all of this information that you've collected, however you've evaluated your success, whether it's been through, again, survey tools or interviews or monitoring social media, how does that quantitative and qualitative data tell you that you've made an impact on the organization and or your broader community? The individual award nomination form asks you to describe the individual's background, their contributions to projects, and the impact this person has made on the institution in 1,500 words. Now that might be difficult, right? This is again intended to be a lifetime achievement award. And so oftentimes people that are nominated for this award have done so much, it's hard to narrow it down to just 1,500 words. But what makes this person stand out to you? What makes their work stand out to you? What could others learn from his or her example? Explain how this person's leadership, their professional work or volunteer service has helped audiences or the institution itself. How has their work increased the institution's capacity or advanced its place in the community? Again, you can find PDF versions of the award nomination forms for individual and institutional awards on pages 4 and 5 of the PDF of the award program guidelines. And again, that PDF can be downloaded from the PA Museum's website on the award subpage. Nominations will be reviewed and awardees notified in December of this year. The public announcement, however, of the 2023 awardees will be done in April of 2023 through the PA Museum's website, in the PA Museum's e-newsletter, which is Tapestry, and at the in-person award ceremony held during PA Museum's annual conference. Yes, I did say in person. So we're really looking forward to seeing people face to face again. The 2023 annual conference is tentatively scheduled to take place in Hershey, again in April of 2023, most likely the end of the month. Each nomination form also requires certain attachments be included. Institutional nominations require a full project budget that includes income and expenses, in-kind support and staff time, as well as at least one photograph. So again, we want to see a budget as well as at least one photograph. Should the nomination be approved for an award, the single photograph that is required will be used, if it's a good one, we hope it's a good one, will be used to represent the project or organization in print and online materials produced by PA Museums for the conference and the awards program. Although not required, nominators are highly encouraged to submit additional support documentation. This includes press releases, media articles, visitor survey results, marketing materials, or photographs that would be helpful for the review committee. Again, don't assume that the people that are reviewing your nomination have an understanding of what your project is. And certainly they probably will not have an understanding of just how much work you've put into it and the broader impact to your organization or the community. So it is highly encouraged that additional support materials be attached. But because projects are different, right? Every project and program is different. We don't prescribe what those additional documents can or should be. So that's why we leave it as an optional part of the nomination. Now, individual nominations require 2 to 3 letters of critical testimony from board members, colleagues, or volunteers that are familiar with the nominee's accomplishments relevant to the museum field. Letters should include a brief statement of the letter writer's relationship to the nominee. So we want to know if the person who's writing the letter is a colleague, a volunteer, or perhaps even a donor of the institution that has witnessed the important work of this individual over time. So we ask that the relationship between the letter writer and the person being nominated be explained. The letter should also include an explanation of the contributions or impact of the nominee to their institution and or the broader museum field, and include specific examples of achievements. Again, although not required, nominators are highly encouraged to support additional support documentation that will help the review committee better understand the work of the individual being nominated. So we would, of course, love to hear from some of our attendees today. So let's take the opportunity to open the session up for Q&A. So please feel free to address your questions to either Rusty or I, or even Leslie as a committee member. I am sure all of our awardees would be happy to answer, or all of our committee members would be happy to answer questions based on our experiences.
I have a question. Is it limited to one entry, or could we nominate 2 in the institutional category?
You can submit multiple projects.
Okay. Thank you.
I would assume, Melinda, for multiple projects, each one in effect would be its own nomination.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? This might be an easy webinar.
Well, we're always happy to follow up if anybody has questions 20 minutes after we get off of here.
This isn't so much a question, but your discussion of, I keep forgetting, you know, I've been trying to send out some news here, that idea of getting the word out to people that it's not just about an exhibitor program, but it could be a really exemplary process, something they've done behind the scenes, whether that's an archival project or something else. I think that's an area where I know I haven't even gotten a lot of questions about that yet this year. And so maybe to do some focus and play that up. I know I'm going to be thinking about it more after this conversation today.
Yeah, so one of the positive impacts of COVID, at least on the field, has been the reinforcement that online activities, programming, digitizing archives, and improving public access is really important. And so I think it would be interesting. I don't know, I would anticipate that as this year and next year continue with kind of COVID very, very much in our minds, and I hate to say rearview mirror, but it's something now that we're living with, right? We're still in a pandemic, but it is something that we're resuming life with. I would anticipate seeing digital programming, digitizing of collections, those types of projects and or processes coming in for potential as potential nominations.
Guys, I brought up an idea to Rusty related to Pennsbury Manor, where I work. We worked quietly with the 3 federally branches of the Delaware, federally recognized branches of the Delaware, to bring their ancestors home for reburial as part of a repatriation of 180 individuals. And I very much want to nominate the assistant chief who choreographed everything. He's Oklahoma based, he's not a member of PA Museums, but I'm also very culturally sensitive that this isn't a Pennsbury story, it's a Delaware story. And could this nomination be considered for one of the special awards? If you guys think it could be, I'll talk to the chief and make sure that what I don't want them to think is that we're trying to get traction out of the reburial of their ancestors. And I'd like to highlight the individual who coordinated and what this man did. There are 2 Canadian groups of Delaware. There are 3 US groups of Delaware. Their funerary practices are divergent by 250 years. So I got to bear witness in real time them negotiating how to handle their ancestors and reinter them, along with 10,000 funerary objects. Pennsbury, the PHMC, deeded the land back to the Delaware, so they rest not on Pennsbury land, but on Delaware land. And they were dealing with collecting institutions from as far west as Berkeley, the Field Museum in Chicago, the Peabody Museum at Harvard, Penn, Temple, State Museum of PA, State Museum of New Jersey, and many others to reclaim their ancestors and bring them home. It was an extraordinary project, but one that I'm very culturally sensitive about. And I'd like to put their former assistant chief, he's now their cultural officer, forward for an award if they feel it would be appropriate. Does that sound reasonable to you guys?
Yeah, Rusty, I toss this one to you since we had a discussion of it just before the webinar.
Yeah, Doug, I think we feel strongly that, you know, I think your thought process here is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'd encourage that nomination for consideration for one of the special categories.
It's challenging in Pennsylvania because we have no federally recognized tribal organizations within our territorial borders. There are, of course, tribal members who are members of many national tribes who are Pennsylvanians.
Sure.
But as such, and there is a very harsh and very bitter divide between the Pennsylvania groups who claim the lineage of the Lenape or the Delaware and those that are federally recognized. And for repatriation purposes, only a federally recognized tribe can reclaim the remains of their ancestors and their sacred and funerary objects. So, you know, for Pennsbury and for the PHMC, the process was huge in getting to understand this and participate. but the hinge point, the catalyst was really, and this has been a path that I've been on since 2004. So it does not happen quickly. And it takes a lot of building of trust, because we, the museum professionals, were as guilty as universities in desecrating the graves of their ancestors. So I will circle to Chief Kills Crow and have a conversation with him next.
Yeah, that would be, just to support what Rusty just said, it would be fantastic to see a nomination come through. I think this would be something that would be really interesting and exciting for the review committee to discuss. Just out of curiosity, were there any public education components to this project, or was it kind of done quietly?
It was done quietly by their request. As
Okay.
we were developing the project and the process, we had discussed the idea of having the press come after the interment. And partway through, a couple of the chiefs of the tribes expressed a hesitation about that. So respecting their wishes and recognizing this is a family funeral. These are people's grandparents, maybe many generations back, but respecting their wishes was huge. And one of the things that very much struck me when I was on a Zoom call as we developed the project, I had asked a simple question, and I saw that this assistant chief and his chief turned off their mic and they were consulting with one another. And we got back to our meeting and things went on, but my question had gone unanswered. 6 months later, this assistant chief and one of his tribal elders were sent here. I didn't understand it at the time. I thought they were just scouting the location, but they were really kind of testing me and the institution to see if this would be a good resting place for their ancestors. And Jeremy said, you know, you threw me for a loop when you asked that question. And I had to admit I couldn't remember what I had asked. And I said, what was that, Jeremy? He said, you asked us what we wanted to do. He said, you know, you're the first guy to ask us that, which is really a sad comment. But, you know, I'm going to be presenting with Jeremy at AASLH on Saturday coming up. And it was an amazing process and journey. It is one tiny step, and it is a Delaware story. And I feel very strongly that it needs to be told from their perspective, not necessarily, you know, the museum nerd's perspective. But it was probably the most significant thing that I'll get to do during my career, and was hugely enriching. And, you know, I learned a tremendous amount along the way. But Jeremy Johnson choreographed 5 different tribes that have 250 years of unshared history, worked with TIPO officers to make sure that these remains from, you know, all over the United States all arrived within a 4-day window. We were able to convince the Philadelphia Museum of Art to bring the famous wampum belt on exhibit for 1 day. And the Art Museum was phenomenal in their support. But some of the tribal members wept when they saw it. You know, it was hugely fulfilling. The educator in me desperately wanted the public to be able to see it, but somebody who understands that many times Native peoples have been objectified by museums, that it was important that we followed their lead. So I think you'll be seeing something coming from me probably in October, because I'm working on 3 different grants right now.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, guys.
I know what session I'm attending on Saturday morning at ASLH now, so thank you.
Not to blow our own horn, but Jeremy and the chief archaeologist for the State Museum of New Jersey, Greg, will be Zooming in. Caitlin Lucas is the TIPO, that's Tribal Historic Preservation Officer here in Pennsylvania of the Delaware Nation, which is a different branch of the Delaware than Jeremy's. So we'll have, you know, 4 different elements there. But you'll hear more from Jeremy than you will from everyone else. But I I really wanted to share the story with my peers because at least for the Delaware, which is just one of 500 nationally recognized tribes, over 500 nationally recognized tribes. Once you get the ancestors back, where do you go with them? Because in their belief system, they need to rest near where they lived to find their way in the spirit world. So finding a safe resting place is as much a challenge as finding their ancestors. And it was amazing, and I was humbled to be part of it. And Jeremy will do a far better job of telling the story than I will. So I'll look for you on Saturday.
Melinda or Rusty, one thing, and I can go back and look at the guidelines. I should know this. What is the time parameter for projects that are eligible for this right now? I'm realizing as we're talking, actually, there's an archival project at the History Center that I don't even think they probably gave this 2 seconds thought, and they might be a good nomination, but I'm not sure, because they weren't thinking about it, I'm not sure what the time parameter is. I should know that.
So typically we go back about 18 months from now. I wouldn't discourage a nomination if it just happens to be slightly outside of that window. I would say that the awards committee could make exceptions, especially if it's deemed a project that is without a doubt something that needs to be shared with the statewide museum community.
Significant collection for something. They got an NEH award to do the processing, and it's just been really quietly done in-house. I mean, it doesn't get the same bells and whistles as the exhibit projects and the public programs.
Was it completed within the last 18 months?
Yes, I do. With 18 months, I wrote that down. I thought, oh yeah, I think that will work.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, we just want to thank everyone for being on the webinar today. We hope the presentation of information was helpful or useful to you. We're very much looking forward to seeing a whole host of nominations. This is one of the highlights. For me personally, this is one of the highlights of the year. I love looking at nominations and seeing the great work that is happening across the state. And then, of course, being able to acknowledge that work through the awards program. It's amazing. So thank you all for being here. We're looking forward to receiving your nominations, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys. Thanks for taking the time with us.